Get out of my house. Those were the last words my son said to me before he threw me into a freezing November rain and locked the door behind me. I was 65 years old, recovering from a stroke, and my daughter-in-law had just told the perfect lie. 3 hours later, when the hospital called him, his face went pale. But by then the truth was already coming for her. I'm grateful you're here with me. Before we go further, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is right now. It means the world to know I'm not telling this story alone. It's December now, 2 years later. I'm 67, sitting in a small apartment in Tucson, watching rain slide down the window. My phone vibrates on the kitchen table. A text message from Jason. My hands shake as I pick it up. 18 months of silence, and now, Dad, we need to talk. Can I come see you? I stare until the words blur. Do I have the courage to face my son again? Just 2 years ago, I thought I knew him better than anyone in this world. Let me tell you what really happened. That November night, November 15th, 2023, 7:45 in the evening. I was 65, sitting in my bedroom at Jason's house in Portland, watching television. My body was still weak from the stroke I'd had the year before, and my knee, 3 months post-surgery, ached with every movement. Jason was 40. He'd just come home from a 3-day business trip to Seattle. I heard his car in the driveway, heard the front door open. Then I heard her voice, Vanessa, his wife, 37 years old, and always so polished. But that night when Jason walked through the door, she was waiting with tears streaming down her face. Jason, I didn't want to tell you like this, but I can't keep living in fear. Her voice trembled. Perfect timing, perfect pitch. I got up slowly and made my way to the doorway. Jason stood there with his overnight bag. Vanessa was in front of him, her whole performance on display. A bruise on her left arm, dark purple. Fresh looking, her blouse was torn at the shoulder, her makeup smudged mascara running down her cheeks. Your father, she said, voice breaking. When I brought him dinner tonight, he grabbed me, hard. I tried to pull away, and She covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. Jason's face changed. I watched it happen in real time. The warmth drained from his eyes. Dad! His voice cut through the air. He'd spotted me in the doorway. I opened my mouth to explain, but before I could speak, Vanessa recoiled. Please, she whispered, backing away. Please don't let him near me. Jason stepped between us. My own son putting his body between me and his wife, like I was dangerous. The Ring camera footage was deleted, he said. Vanessa accidentally deleted it in her panic. Of course she did. Son, I started. I never... Dad? Jason held up a hand. Vanessa just told me something, and I need to hear you say it's not true. But I could already see it in his eyes. The decision was made. I stood there, 65 years old, leaning on my cane, my bad knee throbbing. And I watched my son's face transform into something I didn't recognize. A stranger who believed I was capable of hurting the woman he loved. My son didn't ask questions. He didn't call Pastor Gina to verify where I'd been. He didn't check the Ring camera footage himself. He just believed her. He just grabbed my arm, not gently, not the way a son should touch his father, and dragged me toward the door. Son, I never touched her. I was asleep in my chair. I tried to explain. Jason cut me off, his voice a growl I'd never heard before. Don't stand there and lie to my face. Check the camera yourself. I was asleep. Vanessa said the footage is gone. Convenient, right? That it's gone, right? His fingers dug into my arm harder. I was desperate now. Call Pastor Gina. She knows my medication makes me drowsy after dinner. I brought you into my home. After your stroke? Jason exploded. I trusted you around my wife. His grip tightened. I could feel his fingers pressing deep enough to leave marks of bitter irony compared to Vanessa's fake bruise. I winced, pain shooting through my arm as he pulled me, stumbling toward the front door. My knee buckled. The surgery had been 3 months ago, but I was still weak, still unsteady. Please, it's freezing outside. Let me just get my phone from my room. But Jason wasn't hearing me, wasn't hearing anything except whatever story was playing in his head. He grabbed my jacket and wallet from the coat hook and threw them at my chest. Get out! I tried to resist, tried to plant my feet, but my body, this old broken body, was too weak. Son, please just let me explain. Jason pushed me onto the porch, not hard enough to knock me down, but hard enough to make it clear. I can't have you here. I can't even look at you." The door slammed shut. The deadbolt clicked. That sound, that single metallic click, was somehow worse than everything else. So final. So absolute. I stood there in shock, my fist pounding against the door. Jason, Jason. The lights inside started going out, one by one. Living room, hallway, kitchen. Jason's message was clear. This conversation was over. Through the front window, I caught a glimpse of Vanessa's silhouette. She was standing there watching. Then she turned and walked away like I was already forgotten. I stood alone on that porch, rain soaking through my jacket within seconds. My hands shook as I checked my wallet. $40. A set of house keys that were now useless. No phone, it was still charging on my nightstand a whole world away. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Jason truly believed the lie. A memory flashed through my mind, unbidden. My wife's funeral 3 years ago. Jason holding me up at the graveside when my legs wouldn't work. His arm around my shoulders, his voice in my ear. "We'll get through this together, Dad. I've got you." 3 years later, he threw me into a storm. I looked down the dark, rain-slicked street. My knee was already screaming. 3.5 miles to Riverside Community Church, where Pastor Gina ran a cold-weather shelter. 3.5 miles through freezing November rain with a bum knee and $40 to my name. But what choice did I have? I stood there in the rain, watching those lights inside go dark. 3.5 miles to the church. My knee was already screaming, but I took that first step. What else could I do? I've lived in Oregon my whole life. I know what November rain feels like, cold, relentless, the kind that soaks through everything. But that night, every drop felt like it was washing away the father I thought I'd been, the son I thought I'd raised. I kept to the lit streets in the residential area. After the first quarter mile, my jacket was soaked through and my knee throbbed with each step. I passed a mailbox. I recognized the same one where I used to wait for Jason after school 30 years ago. A memory hit me. Little Jason running toward me, backpack bouncing. "Dad, Dad, look." I got an A on my science test. That same boy had just thrown me out. By half a mile, my hands were going numb. Pulling my jacket closed didn't help anymore. The rain was getting heavier, the temperature dropping. The residential streets gave way to commercial buildings, closed shops, dark windows. At the 1 mile mark, I had to stop. I leaned against a bus shelter, my whole body shaking. Not just from cold, from something deeper. Hypothermia. I knew the signs. The uncontrollable shivering. The fog creeping into my thoughts. The dangerous temptation to sit down just for a minute. Another memory surfaced. Patricia's funeral in March 2020. Jason holding me up at the graveside, his arm around my shoulders. "We'll get through this together, Dad," he'd whispered. "I've got you." 3 years later, he let me go. I forced myself to keep moving. My knee was screaming now. At 1.5 miles, I stumbled, nearly fell twice. Cars passed splashing water, none stopping. I realized what I must look like, some drunk homeless guy, someone to avoid making eye contact with. At 2 miles, I got disoriented. For a moment, I forgot where I was going. Why am I walking where? Then I remembered. Church, Pastor Gina, shelter. By 2.5 miles, my vision was starting to tunnel. The cold was doing something to my mind, convincing me that rest was a good idea. Just sit down, just for a minute. I kept walking, focused on putting one foot in front of the other. At 3 miles, I saw it. The church steeple in the distance, lights still on. Hope surged through me. I pushed forward, staring at that steeple like it was a lighthouse in a storm. Finally, I reached the church parking lot. Pastor Gina's car was still there. She was at the front door, locking up for the night. I tried to call out, but my voice wouldn't work. Just a rasping sound in my throat. 20 feet from the church steps, my knees buckled. I hit the wet pavement hard, couldn't get up. My last clear thought was Jason will never know the truth. Thomas. Oh my God, Thomas. Pastor Gina's warm hands were on my face. Stay with me. Stay with me. I'm calling 911. Her coat draped over me. Her presence steady, solid. I heard sirens approaching through the rain. In the ambulance, they put an oxygen mask on my face, wrapped heated blankets around me. Gina sat beside me, holding my hand. I could hear her on her phone, her voice urgent, angry. I couldn't make out all the words, but I caught fragments. 65 years old, thrown out in a storm. Yes, I'm absolutely certain. And then 2 words that cut through the fog. Elder abuse. Those 2 words. And I realized this wasn't over. I woke up to the beeping of machines and the smell of antiseptic. For a confused moment, I thought I was back in the hospital after my stroke. Then the memories crashed back. This time my son put me here. The clock on the wall read 3:17 in the morning, about 4 hours since I'd collapsed. Pastor Gina was still there asleep in the chair beside my bed. A nurse checked my vitals, explained moderate hypothermia, re-injured knee needing a brace bruising on my left arm. I looked down at those bruises, clear finger-shaped marks from Jason's grip. My bruise was real. Vanessa's was fake. The social worker will be in shortly, the nurse said. Standard procedure? Gina woke up, saw me conscious. Thank God. Thomas, how are you feeling? Like I walked 3.5 miles in a freezing storm. I tried to smile. My voice cracked. The door opened. A man in his mid-30s stepped in. Mr. Wade, I'm Marcus Turner, hospital social worker. I need to ask about what happened tonight. I don't want my son in trouble, I said quickly. He was lied to. Thomas, Gina interrupted gently. Tell him the truth. So I did, living with Jason after my stroke. Vanessa's accusation, Jason's immediate belief, being expelled into the storm. Marcus took notes. Your daughter-in-law accused you of assault? But I never. I was asleep. My medication makes me drowsy after dinner. Mr. Wade, I believe you. But when allegations of assault are made and an elderly person ends up in the ER after being expelled from their home, we have mandatory reporting laws. Reporting to who? Portland Police for the assault allegation, and Adult Protective Services, APS, for elder abuse. Elder abuse, my chest tightened. My son isn't he was manipulated. Intent doesn't change the outcome? Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. You nearly died tonight. You were forced out without proper clothing, phone, or shelter based on unverified accusations. Under Oregon law, that's elder abuse. He's my boy. I don't want to press charges. This isn't about pressing charges. It's about finding the truth. If your daughter-in-law made false accusations that led to this, that's a crime. The investigation will uncover what really happened. Gina leaned forward. Thomas, if she lied once, she'll do it again. I sat silent. Marcus closed his tablet. I've already notified the authorities. An APS investigator will contact you within 24 hours. He paused. Mr. Wade, I've done this work for 10 years. Your story concerns me. Why, it's too consistent. People who lie change their stories, add details, get defensive. You just told me what happened, like you're still trying to understand it yourself. That tells me you're telling the truth, and if you are, someone needs to prove it. After Marcus left, Gina pulled her chair closer. You're not going back to that house. When you're discharged, you're staying with me. I wanted to protest, but I was too tired, too cold still even with the heated blankets. Thank you, I whispered. For the first time that night, I felt safe. The next morning, a woman in a gray blazer knocked on my door. She had a badge clipped to her belt and a leather portfolio under her arm. Mr. Wade, I'm Patricia Rivera with Adult Protective Services. I'd like to hear your story. Patricia Rivera had been investigating elder abuse cases for 23 years. She told me later that she'd learned to spot liars within the first 5 minutes of an interview. She said I wasn't lying. I just looked heartbroken. That afternoon, she sat down beside my hospital bed with her leather portfolio. She was 48, sharp-eyed professional, but not cold. Mr. Wade, I'm here to understand what happened, not to judge, just to find the truth. I appreciated the directness. I've told this story twice now. I'll tell it again. Good. Consistency matters. People who lie rarely tell the same story 3 times. So I walked her through everything again. Living with Jason after my stroke. Vanessa's accusations. The immediate expulsion, the walk, the collapse. Patricia took detailed notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. What time did you eat dinner? What medication do you take? Describe your typical evening routine. I answered everything. No contradictions. She observed me carefully. I could tell she was noting something that I seemed sad and confused, not angry. That was unusual, apparently. People who are falsely accused are usually furious. Mr. Wade, with your permission, I'd like to review your complete medical records. I signed the release immediately. Whatever you need to find the truth. Patricia spent the rest of the afternoon reviewing my records with the hospital staff. She looked at everything. My stroke records from September 2022, right side of my body, Affected right hand with severely limited function. Physical therapy notes documenting my right hand grip, strength at 38% of normal. The PT's specific notation: patient unable to grip objects firmly with right hand compensates with left. My knee surgery from August meniscus repair still recovering limited mobility, uses cane for distances over 100 yards. Assessment notes: patient at risk of falling with sudden movements or when off balance. She compared this to Vanessa's statement in the police report Jason had filed. Vanessa claimed I'd grabbed her left arm hard enough to leave bruises and pushed her forcefully when she tried to pull away. Patricia's analysis was methodical. For a grip to leave visible bruising requires significant pressure. My right hand, my dominant hand before the stroke, had less than 40% grip strength, medically insufficient to cause bruising. My left hand, while stronger still, wasn't strong enough according to the PT assessments. The bruise pattern in Vanessa's photo showed a right-handed grip, my weakest hand. For a forceful push, you need balance and core strength. My knee injury meant I could barely push open a heavy door without risking a fall. A PT note from the week before the incident: patient nearly fell when he lost balance reaching for something. Stability remains compromised. What Vanessa described was physically impossible for my body to do. Patricia returned to my room late afternoon. "Mr. Wade, I've reviewed your medical records thoroughly." I tensed. "And what your daughter-in-law described, grabbing hard enough to bruise, pushing forcefully your body, isn't capable of doing that. The strength isn't there. The balance isn't there." My eyes filled with tears. For the first time, I let myself really feel it. "You believe me," I said. Not a question. A realization. "Medical evidence doesn't lie, Mr. Wade. Bodies tell the truth even when people don't." I broke down. "Thank you. Thank you for asking." My own son didn't even ask. Patricia let me cry for a moment. "Then, Mr. Wade, your son mentioned Ring camera footage. He said your daughter-in-law told him it was deleted." "Yes. She said she accidentally deleted it in her panic." Patricia's expression changed slightly. Not quite a smile, but something close. "Mr. Wade, I need to make some calls." She stood gathering her portfolio. "I'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, rest." She paused at the door. The truth has a way of surviving, even when someone tries to bury it. After Patricia left, I sat there thinking about that Ring camera. Vanessa said the footage was gone, deleted in her panic. But Patricia's face when I mentioned it, she'd looked almost pleased. Like she knew something I didn't. Ring cameras store footage in the cloud for 60 days. Even deleted videos stay backed up. Vanessa didn't know that. And 3 days into the investigation, Patricia Rivera found exactly what she needed. On the morning of November 19th, Patricia called Jason. His voice sounded exhausted, like he hadn't slept since the night he'd thrown his father out. "Mr. Wade, this is Patricia Rivera with Adult Protective Services. I need access to your Ring camera account for my investigation. The footage is gone. Vanessa deleted it." "I understand that's what you were told, but I'd still like to check the account if you'll give me permission." Jason hesitated. "You think my father is telling the truth?" "I think the evidence will tell us the truth. Will you give me access?" "Yes, if it helps clear this up." He gave her the login credentials. Patricia immediately logged into the Ring account from her office. She checked the deleted folder, first empty as expected. But she knew Ring's cloud backup system kept everything for 60 days. She accessed the account settings, found the backup folder. November 15th footage was there. She watched it all. 7:45 p.m. Vanessa, entering Thomas's room with a dinner tray. 7:47 p.m. Vanessa, leaving Thomas visible through the open door, sitting in his recliner, head drooping, asleep. 8:15 p.m. Thomas still asleep, hadn't moved. TV flickering in his room. 8:40 p.m. The critical footage. Vanessa in the hallway bathroom. The camera caught her reflection in the mirror. She was applying makeup to her own arm, creating a bruise with eyeshadow, deliberately tearing her blouse at the shoulder, practicing expressions in the mirror, crying face frightened. Face. Checking her phone. 8:50 p.m. front door camera showed Jason's car pulling into the driveway. 8:51 p.m. hallway camera caught Vanessa taking a deep breath, closing her eyes, starting to cry. 8:52 p.m. Vanessa walking toward the front door, tears streaming. Patricia watched the footage 3 times, documenting every timestamp. Then she called Jason back. "Mr. Wade, I need you to come to my office. There's something you need to see." That afternoon, Jason walked in looking exhausted and defensive. "I found the Ring footage in your cloud backup." Jason startled. But Vanessa said, "Ring keeps automatic backups for 60 days, even deleted footage." Patricia showed him the footage timestamp by timestamp. Jason watched the 7:47 p.m. footage, his father clearly sleeping. Then the 8:40 p.m. footage, Vanessa in the mirror applying makeup, tearing her blouse, practicing crying, his face drained of color. "No, that's not. She was—" He watched her practice that crying face. Jason stood abruptly, walked to the window, his back to Patricia. The silence stretched long. When he finally spoke, his voice was broken. "I threw my father into a storm. For this? She was practicing." Patricia waited a moment. "Mr. Wade, I need to ask you something. Do you know a man named Derek Palmer?" Jason turned confused. "Derek?" "Yes, he's my business partner. Why?" "I've been canvassing your neighbors. Mrs. Collins next door has seen a man visiting your home multiple times when you're traveling for work." She described Derek Palmer. Patricia had already interviewed Mrs. Collins, 70 years old, lived next door for 15 years. Reluctant to gossip, but concerned, she'd shown Patricia her own doorbell camera footage. A black Audi, a man matching Derek's description, 7 visits over 3 months. Always evenings when Jason was away. Always leaving before midnight. Patricia showed Jason the laptop screen. Mrs. Collins's footage. Derek's car pulling up to Jason's house. Again and again. Timestamps showing. September 20th, 28th, October 5th, 12th, 19th, 26th, November 1st. All dates when Jason had been traveling. Jason's hands started shaking. "Derek Palmer," he repeated. "My business partner. My friend." His voice cracked on that last word. Patricia closed her laptop. "Mr. Wade, I have a few more questions about your wife and your father's living situation. But first I need to know, does your wife have a separate bank account you're aware of?" Jason looked up, confusion mixing with the devastation already there. "No. Why would she?" The bank account was the first crack. The browser history was the earthquake. "Patricia called me on the morning of November 21st. Thomas, we need to talk about motive." Diane had gone to get coffee. The rain outside had finally stopped, but the storm inside my family was just beginning. "Jason gave me permission to access Vanessa's laptop," Patricia said. She opened it on the rolling tray table. The browser history was still there. Vanessa hadn't even bothered to clear it. November 10th. Elder Abuse Settlements, Oregon. November 11th. How much can you sue for elder abuse? Portland. November 12th. A legal forum thread titled, "How much can you get for elder abuse? Asking for a friend." "The average settlement in Oregon is $250,000, Patricia said. "Some cases go as high as $500,000. She knew exactly what she was doing. I thought of Vanessa serving me dinner that night. The way she'd smiled. She'd been rehearsing. Patricia pulled out printed text messages from Vanessa's phone. November 5th. Vanessa to Ashley. "I think I found a way out." November 13th. Vanessa to Ashley. "Tomorrow night. Jason's flight lands at 8:45. Timing is everything." November 15th. Ashley to Vanessa. 7:30 p.m. "Good luck. You've got this." My hands were shaking, the left one this time, not the right. "Who's Ashley?" I asked. "Her best friend," Patricia said. "We're bringing her in for questioning." She flipped to another page. A bank statement. Jason didn't know about this. Vanessa opened a separate account in March. She's been moving money into it for 8 months. How is it? The balance at the bottom. $8,500. "She was preparing to leave him," Patricia said, "but she needed more. A lot more. And she saw you as her ticket." I closed my eyes. I thought of my son grabbing my wrist. The way he'd said, "Get out." "Does Jason know?" I asked. "He knows now," Patricia said. "I showed him everything this morning." She closed the folder. "We've scheduled a meeting. November 23rd, 8 a.m. Hospital conference room. You, me, Diane, Jason, Vanessa, Detective Morrison, and Marcus Turner. Does Vanessa know what you found?" Patricia shook her head. Jason told her APS wants to close the investigation. She thinks she won. She stood and put her hand on mine, the left one, the strong one. Thomas, I've been doing this for 23 years. I've seen a lot of lies, but I've never seen someone plan it this carefully. The browser history, the texts, the bank account, the affair, she built a whole architecture of deception. She walked to the door, then stopped. She's going to walk into that room thinking this is just a formality. She has no idea what's waiting. The door closed behind her. I sat in the white hospital bed, staring at the rain-streaked window. Somewhere out there, Vanessa was going about her day. Maybe she was with Derek. Maybe she was moving more money into that secret account. 2 mornings later, she walked into that conference room thinking she'd won. She had no idea what was waiting. 1 week after that November night, we sat in a conference room that smelled like burnt coffee. Patricia Rivera had called this meeting. I'll never forget Vanessa's face when she walked in, confident, even bored. Like this was just a formality. Jason was already there, dark circles under his eyes. He wouldn't look at me. Detective Morrison stood in the corner. Patricia sat at the head with a thick leather file. At 8:03, Vanessa arrived in a polished suit, perfect makeup. "Good morning. I hope we can wrap this up quickly." Patricia's voice was ice. "This won't take long. We're here to discuss November 15th, Patricia began. "Mrs. Wade, you made serious allegations. I've completed my investigation." I stand by what I said. "Truth is very important." Patricia opened the file. "Let me share what I found." Medical records. "Mr. Wade's stroke left his right hand grip at 38% of normal. He cannot grip firmly enough to cause bruising. Knee surgery left him with balance issues. He cannot push someone without falling." Vanessa tried to interrupt. "Maybe the doctor. Measurements are objective. Ring footage. You said the footage was deleted. Ring backs up to the cloud for 60 days. Vanessa's smile died. Patricia played the video. 7:47 p.m. me asleep in my chair. 8:40 p.m. Vanessa at the mirror, applying makeup to her arm, tearing her blouse, practicing crying. The room went silent. 8:51 Vanessa taking a breath, starting to cry, moving to the door. "You staged everything." Vanessa went white. "You're taking it out of context. Text messages." Patricia read them aloud. "Everything's ready. Tomorrow old Thomas will have to pack up. That's private. It proves premeditation. Browser history. Elder abuse lawsuits. You researched how to sue your husband after framing his father. The affair." Patricia laid out photos. Vanessa with Derek Palmer at a restaurant, a hotel kissing. Jason made a sound like he'd been punched. He buried his face in his hands. "Jason, I can explain." Jason shook his head. Detective Morrison stepped forward. "Mrs. Wade, do you understand why we're showing you this?" Vanessa's confidence shattered. "I just needed space. Thomas was always watching. I couldn't breathe." "So you framed him. Real tears now. I never wanted him hurt. I just wanted him gone. Jason would never make him leave." I spoke for the first time. "I almost died that night." Vanessa looked at me, really looked for the first time. I thought you'd go to a hotel." "I had $40 and no phone." Diane's voice cut sharp. "You threw a 65-year-old man into freezing rain." Detective Morrison stood. "Mrs. Wade, you're under arrest. False police report, elder abuse conspiracy to commit fraud." "Wait, no." Handcuffs clicked. She was led away, crying. "Jason, please." Jason never looked at her. The door slammed. Patricia turned to me. "Mr. Wade, on behalf of Oregon, I apologize." I nodded. Jason stood and left without a word. 20 minutes later, I found him in the hospital chapel. Back pew. Staring at stained glass. "Son!" He raised one hand without looking. "Please, I can't. Not yet." Barely a whisper. I stood there. I wanted to walk to him to tell him it wasn't his fault, but the distance felt like miles. I turned and walked away. Diane helped me to the car. "We're going to Arizona. You need to heal somewhere warm." I looked back at the hospital one last time. Jason was still in there somewhere among all that pain. He wasn't ready to be my son again. Not yet. Maybe never. Justice in a courtroom is one thing. Healing in a family is another journey entirely. 2 weeks after that November night in 2023, I left Portland. Diane drove me to Tucson. Oregon's rain faded into Arizona's golden sunlight. It would take 2 years, 800 miles. dozens of letters, and one impossible conversation. Late November 2023, I moved into Diane's brick house. "Stay as long as you like, Tommy," she said. Physical therapy for my knee, counseling for the betrayal, learning to feel safe again. May 2024, Vanessa's sentencing. I watched via video. 18 months in prison, 3 years probation, permanent restraining order, $15,000 in restitution. The judge: "Mrs. Wade, you exploited a vulnerable man and destroyed a family out of selfishness. This court shows no leniency for elder abuse." Jason sold the Portland house. Too many ghosts. Summer 2024. Jason started therapy. Late June, his first letter arrived. I stared at his handwriting for an hour before opening it. "Dad, I failed as a son. I chose to believe her without asking you one question. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need you to know I'm sorry. Jason." I cried, but I didn't reply. The letters kept coming. 1 a week, sometimes 2. Fall 2024. The letters deepened. Jason wrote about therapy, grief, manipulation. My therapist asked why I believed her so quickly. I realized I was terrified of being alone. After Mom died, I clung to Vanessa like a life raft. I didn't see she was drowning me. I read every letter, some twice, but I stayed silent. November 2024. 1 year after. Jason asked if he could visit. Just one afternoon. I agreed. We sat at Diane's table, barely able to look at each other. "I threw you into a storm because I believed her without question," Jason said. "You chose your wife over your father. That's natural. But you didn't give me a chance to speak." Silence. "Your mother would have asked questions first," I said. Jason broke down. "I miss Mom. I didn't want to be alone. Being alone is better than being with a liar." Before he left, I set boundaries. "I can't come back to Portland. Maybe never." Jason nodded. "But you can visit here. Once a month. We can try to rebuild something." We shook hands. No hug. "Not yet." "I'll treasure any chance you give me," Jason said. December 2025. Now. I'm sitting in Tucson, watching rain. Jason's text glows on my phone. "Dad, we need to talk. Can I come see you?" I hesitate. Then a second text. "I met someone. Her name is Rachel. She's kind and genuine. I want you to meet her." I smile. I type back, "Come this Christmas. Aunt Diane is making tamales. Bring Rachel." Some storms wash away the lies, leaving only what was always true. I am a father. He is my son. And love, real love, survives even the coldest rain. The relationship we're rebuilding is different now. More careful, more honest. Built on truth instead of assumptions. But it's real. And sometimes that's enough. I'm 67 now. My son threw me into a storm 2 years ago. I thought I wouldn't survive, but I did. And so did the truth. This Christmas, he'll bring someone new to meet the family. Someone kind. And I'll be there in my sister's warm house, surrounded by people who chose to believe me when I needed them most. It's not the ending I expected, but it's the ending I needed. My name is Thomas Wade. This is my true story, one of many grandpa stories I could tell, but this one changed everything. Looking back now, I see my mistakes clearly. I was too passive. I trusted that love would be enough, that my son would choose truth over comfort. Don't be like me. Don't assume family will always see your heart. Speak up. Ask questions. Document everything. When someone accuses you, don't just rely on your innocence, fight for it with evidence. I learned that silence can be mistaken for guilt. I learned that manipulation thrives in families where no one asks hard questions. I learned that being a good person doesn't protect you from lies, only the truth does. But I also learned something deeper. God was with me on that freezing walk. When I collapsed in the rain, God sent Pastor Gina. When everyone doubted, God provided Patricia Rivera to uncover the evidence. I believe the Lord allows storms not to destroy us, but to reveal what's hidden in the darkness. This true story taught me that justice doesn't always come quickly. It took 8 days of hospital stay and strangers who cared more about truth than comfort. These grandpa stories we carry aren't just about pain, they're about survival, resilience, and the slow work of rebuilding. If you're going through something similar, remember, document everything, trust, but verify, and never stop seeking the truth. And most importantly, have faith. Even in the coldest storm, God sees you. This is my true story. It's one of those grandpa stories that needed to be told not for sympathy, but so others might learn what I learned. Too late, love without accountability isn't love. It's vulnerability waiting to be exploited. Thank you for listening to my story. If this story touched your heart, share it with those who need to hear it. Subscribe to follow more stories about resilience, truth, and the complex beauty of family. Leave a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I read every response. The truth will set you free, but first you have to fight for it. See you in the next story.